Chapter 17. Someone's walking on the dollhouse stairs. The storm centered over the house. A brilliant flash of lightning brought Amy straight up in bed, just as the first raindrops thudded on the roof. Amy! Luann's panicky cry was muffled by the sheet. She had pulled it over her head and was curled up into a tight ball. Amy! The big bed shuddered under the crash of lightning. There's nothing to be afraid of. Amy tried to sound calm. There is, too. Luann sounded as if she was strangling. It's worse than the thunder at our house, Amy. No, it isn't. But Luann was right. At home, other people and houses were close by. Here in the country, the house stood by itself. As if tonight wasn't going to be scary enough without a storm, Amy thought. She'd been awake for an hour, thinking about what she had to do. The dollhouse was trying to tell her something. She didn't want to go up into the attic again, but she knew she must. Don't go to sleep, Luann, Amy whispered. We're going to do something in a few minutes, as soon as Aunt Claire has had time to fall asleep. The sheet was slightly lowered, and the next flash of lightning, Amy saw Luann peering out at her. I can't go to sleep, but I'm afraid. What are we going to do? We're going to go up and look at the dollhouse, watch it, and see if anything else happens. No, the sheet went back up. Why not? Thunder. I don't like thunder, Amy. There was another breathtaking clap, and Luann moaned. Amy was disappointed. She'd been counting on her sister's company. It would help to be with someone who wasn't afraid of dolls that moved and a dollhouse that lit up by itself. But if Luann was going to scream every time there was a crash of thunder, she'd be no comfort at all. Amy slipped out of bed and opened the door a crack. Aunt Claire's door was tightly closed. Is Aunt Claire sleeping? Luann was peeking again. I guess so. She said she didn't feel tired, so she was going to take a sleeping pill. It must have worked by now. Amy found her slippers under the bed and put them on. I'm going into the attic, Luann. You stay here under the covers and keep your eyes closed tight, the way you do at home. You'll be okay. There was a subdued sniffle. Then the mound of bed covers erupted. I'll go with you. You don't have to. The thunder sound will sound louder up there. That's okay. Luann slid out of bed and reached for Amy's hand. I want to be with you. Amy felt better. She led the way down the hall as the lightning leapt across the window at the far end, and the thunder rattled the panes. Luann trembled. When they opened the attic door, the darkness was daunting. Too dark, Luann whimpered. Turn on the light, Amy. Amy drew her into the stairwell. The lightning will help us see, she whispered. We want it to be dark. If the light comes on in the dollhouse, we want to see it happen. As they climbed the stairs, Amy listened for other sounds between the thunderclaps, the small, scratchy noise of dolls moving about. When they reached the top step, lightning lit the attic, and the dollhouse stood open. Walk on tiptoe, Amy ordered, and don't talk out loud, whatever happens. Aunt Claire mustn't wake up. Okay. Luann tightened her grip on Amy's hand and let herself be led across the attic to the corner. The girls knelt in front of the open dollhouse. They waited while the rain beat a wild tattoo over their heads. The lightning flashes grew further apart, but the thunder was as loud as ever. After what seemed like an endless time, Amy shifted her weight. One foot was starting to tingle. Almost immediately, the dollhouse parlor became easier to see. It's starting, Amy whispered. She could make out the furniture in the little room, the high-backed sofa and chairs, the desk firmly set against the closed door. The grandmother doll stood facing the bookshelves as before, her arm upraised. Poor Dolly, Luann murmured, hearing what Amy had missed because of the rain. The crying again. It came from the parlor, soft, raking sobs. Then the grandmother doll tipped forward until one tiny hand rested on a book on the bookshelf. Amy gasped. Until this moment, part of her had insisted that the haunting of the house could be a product of her imagination. She thought that she had seen the dolls move before. She thought they were able to move by themselves. But now she was sitting in front of the parlor, watching it happen. Amy, Luann looked over her shoulder. Someone's coming up the stairs. Amy turned. Aunt Claire, is that you? She hardly recognized her own voice. Aunt Claire? Footsteps continued, heavy, shuffling. Skinny, quick-stepping Aunt Claire would never walk like that. Amy, it's in the dollhouse, Luann said. Someone's walking on the dollhouse stairs. She leaned forward, her head cocked in puzzlement. Someone's coming down the dollhouse stairs, but I can't see anyone. Amy threw her arm around her sister. The footsteps stopped, and the sobbing grew louder and more frantic. The doll at the bookcase pivoted slowly, just as something heavy thudded against the parlor door. Oh no! Amy struggled to get up, but she couldn't. Her legs wouldn't hold her. Her mind was a blur. She'd come to the attic to learn the secret of the dollhouse, but she didn't want to see this, not a murder. Sobbing was all around them now. The parlor door shook under the impact of the invisible attacker. Luann jumped up. Let's go, Amy. I don't want to stay here anymore. There was a final thud, louder than all the others. The parlor door burst open, shoving the desk to one side. A high, thin scream filled the attic. Amy stared at the gaping door and the grandmother doll pressing back against the bookshelves. Panic gave her strength, and she scrambled to her feet. The girls dashed across the attic and down the stairs. As they threw open the door at the bottom and tumbled into the hall, a roll of thunder set the whole house trembling. Aunt Claire! Amy shrieked. Luann shouted, Mama! And they hurtled into their aunt's bedroom as if the killer himself were right behind him.